This is Glambition Radio, episode number 251, with Rachael Jayne Groover, founder of the Awakened School.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Glambition Radio.
Glambition Radio.
Glambition Radio.
Glambition Radio.
Glambition Radio.
Glambition Radio.
Welcome to Glambition Radio. I am your host, Allie Brown. I'm an entrepreneur, mentor, investor, and founder of The Trust, the modern premier network for 7- and 8-figure women leaders. I love thinking big, doing different, and exploring ideas that disrupt the status quo, especially when it comes to women, because we are creating the new models for leadership, business success, making money, and changing the world. And hey, we're doing it with style. So let's go. Hello from Miami Beach. We are here getting ready for our meeting to start for The Trust. And I got here a few days early alone, which was heavenly. I actually haven't had that in a while. I usually do that for myself once in a while, but this year was just that kind of year. It didn't really happen. And my kids come in tonight with Brett, and we are going to be taking a vacation after the meeting, driving down to the Keys and doing some fun stuff. But I can't tell you how refreshing it is to be traveling again. We were mostly based in Arizona all year because life's pretty good there. Not much shut down. And, you know, we were set up to be pretty happy there for the year. We took a few car trips to California in the summer, but we've been there a lot. And I'm so happy not to be looking at cactus. I'm looking out at the ocean right now as I'm talking to you. And just so happy. Just so many different kinds of people here. Everyone's in a good mood. I highly recommend Florida if you want to take a trip and get away. It feels almost normal here. It's quite amazing. And apparently they have some great travel deals. So if you need a change, have a look at it. So perfect show for me to introduce today because this is going to be a big topic at our meeting this week. And it is on this awakening of spiritual awareness that we are going through right now. And then how this translates also into our businesses. And my guest is Rachael Jayne Groover. She's founder of the Awakened School. She is originally from Australia and came here to marry an American. You know, my husband's Australian, came here to be with me. And so we have a lot in common, but man, we have more in common than I realized because our conversation gets really, really juicy. So I'm going to keep this intro short since I'm doing this into my phone. Make sure you check out Rachael Jayne and follow her because her stuff is really profound. She really has a great insight on bringing feminine to the world of our work and who we're being and using that as a kind of a special superpower that we forget we have that makes things a bit easier in many ways. And then also this context, you know, that we need to kind of have on the world and everything going on right now. And you know, I love this stuff right now. So get ready for a fantastic conversation with Rachael Jayne Groover. Rachael Jayne, I'd like to know where you are right now.
I'm in Colorado. We're just outside Loveland, Colorado. It was a dream of a romantic girl to live in Loveland, Colorado.
With your love. Love's what brought you here, right? Isn't love what brought you here?
It was partly. It was having a sense intuitively that the love of my life was living not in Australia where I was. And also what brought me here was I was infatuated with Oprah back in the late 90s where she was having all of these spiritual authors and teachers come on. I'm like, these Americans, they are just so conscious. Oh,
we seemed evolved, didn't we, at that time? I don't know if we are now, but we were. Like, she was leading the charge.
She was definitely leading the charge. There was nothing like that. And especially in Australia, there was nothing like that in the personal and spiritual development industry. And I wasn't in that industry at the time, but I was very, very attractive to it early in my life on that spiritual sort of path.
Yeah. Yeah. Now tell everyone how you ended up here.
Well, I ended up following the divine breadcrumbs, as I would say, the intuition of, I'm supposed to live in America. I'm supposed to live in America. I was singing full time before that. I was a musician, singer-songwriter. And I just wanted to make a change. I wanted to make that change from just entertaining people for entertainment's sake and move into more of the personal development realm. And that was all that was happening. So I did a sort of look at the map, the US map, and I was like, well, where does a musician like me go? And I was like, I'm going to end up in Nashville or Austin or New York or San Francisco. But no, I ended up in Ashland, Oregon, which was actually perfect because that was where I always sort of joke, like there's a guru on every street corner in Ashland, Oregon. That's where a lot of people live. And there's only like 20,000 people in that town. So I was very, very lucky for, my divine source to totally lead me there. I couldn't have figured it out on my own for sure.
That's a big part of your life, isn't it? Following, you mentioned before, the breadcrumbs, you call it. Can you talk about that for a minute and how much that's meant to you?
Yeah, it has been big. My book is called Divine Breadcrumbs. I've used that term for ages before the book came out. And I had some really powerful experiences in my mid to late 20s when I started hearing instructions auditorily that did not make sense. But when I followed them, it really made sense. And so I learned pretty early on the difference between my own sort of ego mind voice and, when I'm thinking that would be great, and it was more strategic mind versus this voice that was do this now. And I got tuned into that. And it's actually, what opened me up to my first quite extreme spiritual awakening experience was right after I followed this voice for the first time. And then when I came to the US and I was like, where's my man? Where's my man? It said, go to Toastmasters. It clearly came through, go to Toastmasters. Well, my husband, Dada Groover, was at Toastmasters. We got to know each other for 3 years before he had the courage to ask me out. But I was asking, I'm following the breadcrumbs. I'm at Toastmasters. I'm doing other things. And I asked again, and I said, what am I supposed to be doing to meet the love of my life? And it said, start singing again. Like, what? So I start singing again, and I asked the only musician in town that I knew, who was Dada Groover from Toastmasters. And then it was all downhill from there in the best possible way with our...
As my Aussie husband says, it says it's all over Red Rover, right?
It was all over Red Rover. When I heard him play that bass guitar and do the moves that he does when he plays bass guitar, it was all over.
And here you are now in Loveland, Colorado. I love it.
That's right.
How did you move into the workshops and the teachings? And, obviously you said you were on that kind of spiritual evolution path. When did you feel like you had something to say and share and teach to others?
Yeah, well, when I moved to Ashland first, I was lucky enough to be in a volunteer position while I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with Neale Donald Walsch, who wrote the Conversations with God books and has sold many, many, many millions of books. And so I was around that community for a while, and then I ended up getting a job with his foundation putting educational programs together. And I didn't realize that was a natural talent of mine. I was singing, but I was also teaching vocal technique. I was teaching stage presence. I think looking back, I'm a natural teacher, but I didn't really get it until I was sort of thrown into this position of, can you put together some educational programs? Because Neale was just doing retreats at that time or speaking, and he wanted to have a year-long program or something that could really take people deeper into his work. So I did that. And then I started putting together a coaching certification for them and a speaker training for them. And it was like all of my sort of, I guess, natural soul purpose came out through that. And then it was very interesting situation moving to what you just said, how did you know when you were ready to speak about your own thing? That was a challenging journey because I was delving into the whole feminine and masculine thing at the time for my own relationships because love wasn't finding me in the beginning. And as I was tuning more into my own feminine essence and being more present and the spirituality piece, I knew there was something around presence and femininity and working with women. But on the other hand, I had the brakes on because, on one hand, I had the secure paycheck. And on the other hand, I'm staring at some, coaching practice that I have no clients. And how do I make that shift?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The feminine really was, well, I know for me, when I started paying more attention to that and understanding that I needed to let more of that back in as well, it changed everything for me.
Yeah.
It changed everything from my relationships. Gosh, it's such a big topic. We could do a whole show on that. I'd love to have a conversation on that in the trust. And just to share, Rachael Jayne is a member of the trust, and we have women in there with, multi-million-dollar businesses. And, many of them find it challenging to balance those parts of themselves when they're these business building ball busters. So many of us, it's just kind of how we're wired. And, can you share a bit on what a difference that can make in itself on how, just even the awareness of those differences and what we could do at this time?
Yes. Well, I think the first thing that shifted for me in embodying more of the feminine essence was the relationship piece. That kind of caliber of men that started showing up in my life changed significantly. I had fallen into the trap of, I don't want to be needy, and I don't want to be, thinking they think that I'm less than, all that sort of feminine empowerment thing, which I completely agree with. I completely don't want to feel needy and don't want to, but I was going over the top with it. And so I was like, this man needs to know that I can meet him intellectually. And I wasn't as vulnerable and all of those things. So I really think it was a big reason why data came into my life. But let's talk about the business for just a moment. I think that it has given me the opportunity over now the last 12 years full-time doing this business to never burn out. I mean, I have not burnt out once. I am probably one of the healthiest, if not the healthiest person I know. I am very happy. I don't get stressed. I mean, that happened early on, right? When you're first just trying to build it and get money. But that's been the case, not just because of my spiritual connection, but the feminine. Like, how can you be very achieving, which I am, very ambitious, which I am, very hardworking, which I am, but do all of that from the feminine essence, which is an energetic way you run your energy, right? Sometimes people think feminine means not being ambitious or not being the boss or not being direct. It's like, that's total crap. Like, it is about being all of those things and being the follower when it's needed and, flexible when it's needed. But can you be that huge range of expression that any woman or man has, but come from your dominant primary sexual essence? And when that happens, energy runs in a very different way, which gives you a lot of life force, a lot of presence, a lot of magnetism, and doesn't have you burn out so much.
Yeah. Sign me up. Sounds good. It's, we need to work on that. Sometimes we maintain that and then sometimes we slip, right? And then we have to revisit that and remind ourselves that. And, when you look over the last year, especially, you built your company to, multi-million-dollar levels. You have all kinds of trainings and, just probably thousands of people have been through your programs, I'm going to guess.
Yeah.
What do you tell people now about everything going on, like this past year and the craziness? And, when you're really talking to them about spiritual growth and, you use the word awakening, help us tune in right now to current times and how important this work is. Maybe leave us with a few things we can take with us.
Yeah, well, a year ago when things started shifting, and at least here in the US that we went into what some would call lockdown, things were shifting for us because we were primarily a live event company. And so I was sitting in my living room going, okay, what do we do here? And the Awaken School, which is our company, has been always about helping world changers create their vision and the spiritual awakening and the personal awakening that goes on if you really want to be the person that people want to follow, right? Versus just having that intention. I want people to follow me and have this great thing, but really be that person with that potent magnetic energy that people want to follow. So we were doing that in different ways, helping people write their book, getting much better at speaking, meditation, mindfulness, all of that. But when this happened and threw us all into a different place globally, I started asking more like, how do we need to shift the content? Not just we went all virtual and that's been wonderful, but what's really relevant now? And the first thing that came to me, which I did a mini course about, and I'm going to do a challenge later this year on it, is how to be unwavering stillness in this situation. Because there was a lot, and there still is, whenever you're watching this podcast, there still is, I am sure, a lot churning, a lot happening, a lot arising that you may want to see or you may not want to see. And so that was happening, and I knew that I wanted to help people really understand what creates unwavering stillness, meaning you are that eye of the storm no matter what. And unfortunately, most people, even if they've been on a spiritual path for a long time, they can't be that. They're not that. Something triggers them and whew, off they go. Or, and so how to ground into that. And then I've been talking about shadow work for a long time. It's a big part of our work. The shadow is in the unconscious realm, psychologically unconscious work. Carl Jung was very well known for that, brought that to more of our awareness. But that is so important, and it got even more important when all of this stuff changed things, because being in your unwavering stillness or really, really committed to your spiritual awakening, that means you've got to clean up. It's not just about waking up. It's about cleaning up.
What does that mean?
Cleaning up is those things that you don't want to look at, you don't want to quite see in yourself, and you don't want to quite see out in the collective realm as well. I'll give you an example. When we're working with people in their individual shadow, you can ask questions like, what's triggering in you and someone else? Who are the type of people over the last couple of weeks you're just like, I wish they were different. And often people can see the same quality in those few people that are really triggering them, like they're so arrogant, or they think they're better than, or they're so needy, or something like that, right? And you can use that as a doorway into your shadow where you have not claimed, owned that you are also arrogant, or you are also needy, that you have that part, not that you express that all the time, but that you have that part of you. And when someone looks into the shadows of their unconsciousness and goes, I'm arrogant too. I mean, who is not arrogant at some times? Who has not? Be honest, over the last month gone, oh gosh, I wish people were more evolved. Oh my God, I wish they weren't so much of a sheep. Oh my God, I wish they, right? Who hasn't done that over the last month? Well, that's kind of arrogant, isn't it? So it's fine that we have that part of us. That's part of the earth suit. It's part of the personality. But if you don't own that you have that part, it's going to go into your unconscious and it's going to play out in unhealthy ways, versus it can play out in very healthy ways. Like when I did my own work around arrogance, which I really didn't want to be, especially being Australian, which you cannot be better than anyone else if you're Australian.
No, tall poppy. Yeah.
It's tall poppy syndrome all over the place. So I was like, I can't be arrogant. I can't be superior than anyone. But when I looked at the gem in it, like what's the virtue in arrogance, I realized that I can't really be the teacher or the leader that I want until I own that actually I am better at other people than this. I have reached a level of spiritual awakening that most of the people I'm around who have been on the path for a long, long time have not experienced that drop in yet. And so when I could just be like, it's okay that there's moments that I feel better than, not superior as a person, but my whole work took off because I was so busy playing the tall poppy syndrome, and Ali actually pointed that out to me. You pointed that out to me in my old branding, like when I meet you or when I hear you talk, I hear a different energy. And that was, you were looking at the tall poppy, Australian, lovely, nice girl, it's like I had to like claim this power and this energy. And so that's how it can show up individually and then collectively. Well, I don't know how far you want to go, Ellie, down the path here, but there's so much happening that is coming into the light, meaning into vision for people since this first lockdown occurred. It's creating all kinds of havoc because some people can see it, then other people can't, and then the other people that can't call bad names to the other people, and then the other people, and then and there's all these like teams and factions, and it's like it doesn't need to be that way. But the reason why we're going through so much unrest and through somewhat of a spiritual, energetic war in a way is because there is so much collective shadow arising in multiple different areas all at the same time globally. I mean, it's huge.
Yeah, so there's meta versions of this happening. What's going on inside us is also going on in the earth and collectives and the world, right? And this is why it's getting, this is why I feel so heavy, everyone. I want you to tune in because it's not just your crap, right? It's like the world's crap. Like everything is coming up to be dealt with in almost every area of our lives and of our countries. I mean, everything from health to politics to the taking care of our earth, just everything. Yes. So how do we get to this stillness you speak of? How do we get there? And also to me, that feels like I'm not doing anything then to help. So help clarify that stillness aspect.
Yeah, it's a energetic stillness that then can have you tune into your spiritual source always. Maybe you don't hear that with, clairaudience as I do, or sometimes clairvoyance as I do, but you feel it. You get a gut feeling. You're following the signs. You see synchronicities. You just deeply trust your God, the God of your understanding. And if you're not energetically still, when everything is swirling around, that loss of connection to your spiritual source is not as clear, isn't it? It's just not as clear. And you go down the emotional scale to angry or frustrated or something like that. So it's definitely not about stillness and not doing anything. I am always looking at the next thing I can do to play a part in the awakening of an individual, the awakening of their impact, or the awakening of humanity. But it's the energetic stillness that you can have when you're doing what you're doing, no matter who is in conflict with you, who's judging you, who's, where I'm going with that. So some things that occur when you are in that unwavering stillness is the mind is quiet, like very, very quiet. There's nothing going on. And for people, as that starts to happen in their awakening journey, that is a little bit like, uh-oh, what's going on? I can't, I'm looking around and there's just nothing going on. And for people like you and me, Ali, like that's sort of opposite to how it has been. Like we've always got something going on in our mind and thinking about this and blah, blah, blah. And so when that happened, where I was was just right after a retreat that I was leading, it was multi-day retreat, when my mind dropped, like it just went, and a whole nother level of seeing occurred. It was a little bit discombobulating at the same time because I had all these questions like, what's going to happen now? Like, am I just going to like hang out here in bliss land, like smiling and not having anything go on in my mind? Like, how can someone do that? How can that be? But why that has not occurred for most people, even when they've been on a personal and spiritual development path for a long time, which is really our tribe. They've been in this like you and your tribe, actually, Ali, and the trust for sure, they've been on a personal development path for decades, right? It's not like they're doing their first law of attraction workshop, like last week. They've been on it. But the reason why the mind doesn't drop into stillness, where it is mostly that for the rest of their life, is because the awakening first occurs in the mind, like the concepts. I get the concepts. I get that I'm held. I get that I'm spiritually connected. I get that I create my own reality. I get that I can, all those things. Like, okay, I get it. And there's a lot of awakening that happens from there. But the awakening that needs to happen second is through the emotional body. And that happens for a lot of people who've been on the path for a while. It's that head to their heart, but they've got to be in their body to really not to use any coping strategies to stuff the way they feel. If they continue to keep doing coping strategies to stuff the way they feel, they're not going to awaken in the heart. They may feel like a heart-centered person. Oh, I'm definitely in the heart. I am compassionate. But no, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a real drop into the heart center, where you are completely available to your own emotional center and other people's emotional center. And when that happens, things get very, very joyful, but it really has to drop all the way down to your pelvis, to your legs, to your feet, that like, I am here. I am here. And when that really dropped in for me, given the work that I teach, it's very much about Dantian, power center, life force. When that really dropped in for me, that's when the mind the ego mind disappears. The seeking mind that's always wanting to seek for the next thing and the next improvement, and it just went away. And that was what was discombobulating for a while, until the sort of descent back into real life in a way, happened. And that did happen. But there was a period where I just had to be okay for a few months in this altered reality, is what it felt like. But now it doesn't feel like an altered reality. It feels like the rest of it was an altered reality before that happened,
Yeah. Yeah, that kind of explains, I think, I know I went through that last year, I think. Just I had to pull back and just get very, very centered in myself. And I didn't have a lot of external activity. I consciously chose that, and to spend time with my family and get grounded. Then I felt ready to ramp up again. And I think it's important to remember that we have control of that. We forget. I mean, if you're on social media, then you get scared. Like if you don't post for a day, people will think you're gone. And I just made a radical decision to, reduce my show schedule again to every 2 weeks. And that was a big decision because part of me, like the egoic mind, is like, well, that risks maybe we'll fall off the top charts, or, if you don't have enough downloads, and it's all metrics, right? So it's like more shows, more listeners. And I'm thinking, but this is what I want right now, because I feel something new percolating and I need to make space for that. And so it's so important, especially for women, to really honor what you're feeling. I mean, I'm hearing that through this, Rachael Jayne, is like, you've got to honor what you're feeling and give that respect and time to, doesn't even sound like you had to work on it per se, but because you honored it and kind of gave it what it needed, it was able to move through you or move into the right place.
Yeah, well, I definitely had to work through it. What it looks like as I was working through it was, what are my coping strategies that have me not feeling? And that was overeating. That was watching movies in the evening. Not that watching movies isn't good, but I just get into this habit, of like, okay, a certain time, I don't want to sit with myself. Let's scroll the social media. Let's watch the Netflix. And for some women, it's the 2 glasses of wine, like almost every evening.
Yeah.
That's the coping strategy. So I had to go through that to take those away. And when those get taken away, it feels uglier before it gets better. Right? That's why we're having the 2 glasses of wine, or what you're having, what your sort of substance of choice is to depress your energetic system and your emotional system. And that's what connects to your spiritual system. So I did that. And then I had to really learn the difference between going into my emotional drama or story, like feeling it and talking about it, and what present to my emotion actually was. And people don't get the subtlety of that. They think, okay, I'm going to feel my emotion, I'm going to cry, or I'm going to get angry. But no, there is a high level of energetic presence that is required as you feel that anger, as you feel that sadness, as you feel whatever it is, to dissolve that. I love Eckhart Tolle's term, the pain body, right? That's what it feels like in the emotion. It's emotional pain body. And so I had to build enough stamina, I guess, in my presence to be able to be angry and not fall into the story of it at all, just as a sensation in my body. And then once I got better at that, I was better at feeling where I was on the emotional scale. And that's so connected to alignment and creating, manifesting miracles, which I am much better at now than I used to be. And so it's definitely been a journey, but it was only a couple of years ago this has been over 20-year journey since my first pretty significant spiritual awakening, alternative reality experience. The mind didn't really have its death until I could stay with pretty strong reactions and still be present.
So this past year with your communities and seeing what they were going through, what did you wish people could understand right away? What did you wish that they could awaken to faster, if anything? Where if you could wave the magic wand, where do you wish people would be right now?
Well, you know what comes is I'm going to talk to two different camps because we've been so split, right? We've been maybe it's 2 camps, 3 camps, whatever, and it's just an illusion. We are all unified. It's just an illusion, but there's been so many splits politically. Wear the mask, don't wear the mask, economically, all of these things. And so, what I would wish for those that started seeing shadows pretty early, like, oh my gosh, for me personally, it wasn't very long until I looked at certain information that was coming across going, I'm being lied to. I am being lied to. And I had to work through the feeling of betrayal. I don't know if you or anyone else listening felt that, but I was definitely, not with everything that was coming out. I'm not like jump on this camp and then I believe everything that camp says or this camp or whatever, but I have a lot of background in health. I have a lot of friends who are doctors and scientists. So I have a lot of ability to check in with people. And I realized that what I'm hearing, much of it was a lie. And so there was some people around me that were like that and they were freaked out about it. Like, what's going on? People are being told this and this is not right and and so what I would have wished for that camp, and still who might be stuck in that camp, is everything is working out perfectly. Everything about this.
That's not what I expected you to say. Okay.
I
want to hear everything. I want to hear this.
Out perfectly.
Okay, good.
Like
I am intrigued. Please continue.
Yeah. The way evolution and awakening occurs is we expand and go high. Let's use the word higher. It's not really higher. It's higher, wider, deeper, all at the same time. But let's use the word higher. We go higher in our awakening journey, in our awareness journey, and that is how it works. You don't have to go far. Just look back at your parents or your grandparents or your great-grandparents, that we've come quite a fair way with our own awareness and mindfulness and connection and unity journey, right? We could all agree on that. So if that's happening, that it's always awakening and it's going higher and higher. And if for some reason the evolution of humanity, let's take it, the evolution of humanity goes wrong, like it goes off the track, what will occur is a spiral down to where it went off track, so it can resume its higher realms. Right? So what we're seeing right now in many of these areas, you said political, finance, health, community,
education,
education. It went off track. And you and I and many of your listeners, we can see that. Right? So not everyone can see it, but we can see it. We can see, especially if we're experts in that field, where it went off track. And so we are in the middle of that retraction back to where it went off track. And so it's working out perfectly because it has to do that. And that's why so many people are seeing things in their area of expertise out in the public domain. It's going, that's not how we get to the next place. That's not how we get to the next place. You're seeing it. And so for those, and I was there, I mean, God, I had my moments. I tell you, I was curled up in a fetal position in my driveway screaming one of these days last year. I mean, it was intense, intense. Because it was like, this can't work out okay. And it's like, yes, it is. It is. Everything is working out, not okay, perfectly, in perfect divine order. But we are in that great release or great retraction period right now, which feels uncomfortable. And the other reason why it is perfectly is because of the shadow piece that we were talking about earlier, that for this to occur, for us to retract back to where it went off track from our higher levels of consciousness about this that we're wanting to go, we have to see where it went off track. We have to see it. If we don't see it, we're going to do the same thing again. Isn't that what happens in your life? If you don't see it when you make the mistake, it happens again, it happens again. So what's happening perfectly is we're seeing it of where it went off track. And now some of you may be listening going, what the hell is she talking about?
What are these women saying?
What is she seeing? It depends really. Just think about, depends really on your area of expertise. I'm not seeing everything. I'm seeing a lot because I've had the areas of expertise around health, around energy, around spirituality, community. So not politically. So I'm looking at that as well, but I'm not really a political person. So you may be involved more politically, so you're seeing more of that, or you might be involved in the financial area and what's happening financially right now as we are about to go through a great reset, whatever you want to call that great reset, the bad one or the great one. I'm going for the great one, by the way. Great, really great.
Not Klaus's.
Exactly. But there's going to be a reset because we're in a retraction in the financial realm. And so part of my area of expertise, I would say, is that, but it's not as much as some of you out there, and you're seeing it. So it might just be one area that's really got your attention right now because you love that area. So that's what I mean. It's not like you have to see everything, but we're seeing it so it doesn't happen again, right? So that's what I would say to the first camp, and then I'll go to the second camp, but I'll stop there, Allie, if you have any questions about the first camp, which is like, oh my God, the world's going crazy and this is going to end up bad. We have those days.
What's overwhelming? I mean, I truly cannot pay attention to everything going on right now because I would hide under the bed. Like I have days where I'm into it. I'll kind of comb through and do more reading and watch some videos and get updates. And then I'll wake up some mornings and be like, nope. I'm in my zone today. I'm on. I cannot even be aware of that today.
Yes.
So I'm just glad I'm conscious now of the days where I can handle it and the days I can't.
That's very good. And then I would offer on the days that you can, then start to really drop back into the center of your head, like literally the center of your head, your third eye, and you're inside your body. And you're just asking, how is this perfect? With a little smile on your dial. And just ask that question, how is this perfect? And receive. Because when you start seeing from that meta perspective, it went for me from, okay, this is hard, to okay, I get it. I'm hearing messages. I was hearing all last year, 2020, everything is okay. Pace yourself. And this is a gray blanket that has been covering humanity being lifted. That happened right in the beginning. I'm like, what gray blanket? I'm just having a good time being at home, not having to go anywhere. Like, what do you mean gray blanket? And that's occurred throughout the year. But the higher level that I think is drawing many of us right now is to actually go into a meta vision, a spiritual sourced vision of seeing the perfection. And you can't talk about this to everybody, like, isn't this perfect that this is happening? No, I don't mean that. Like, there is a human way, and then there's the spiritual. I mean, from a spiritual perspective. And then you're in a higher frequency as you watch some of these things, which I'm watching not all the time, but I want to be on the great side of the Great Reset. I want to be on the great side of this financial shift. I want to be very aware of if I need to fear this or I don't need to fear this. So there's a lot to navigate for all of us. So that's why I'm watching it. But to watch from the meta perspective, these days I'm just feeling so alive and sort of really laugh, not just laugh from a sarcastic way, but really, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So let me go to the other camp. The first was like, oh my God, the world is falling. And the other camp might be why are all my friends conspiracy theorists right now camp? They're like, what's going on? Why is there so many people talking about weird things, And I don't say that to belittle anyone, because I understand why you would be thinking that, because there's a lot that's been talked about from the virus. Is this made up? Is this real? I think there's things behind it, to leaked rings of all sorts of very, very nasty things, to, well, I don't even need to go any further. You know what I mean, right? So there's all of this building, and then there's we've got to watch out for these conspiracy theorists. My advice to that camp is to just pull back a little bit and really understand what's happening is people are starting to see things that don't quite make sense to them yet. It's like, I don't know what's going on, but they're sensing something's going on. And so some of the people you may have been talking to may sound not too crazy. Like, you can, and they're saying things, you're like, okay, let me do that. And others are using sort of kind of crazy words, right? And there's the spectrum in between. But what's creating it at such a level now is not because there are so many more conspiracy theorists. It's not because of that. You can disagree with me, but all of my guidance says it's not because there's something weird going on with all of these people. It's going on because the unconscious is coming and they don't quite know how to work with it or even talk about it. And so it comes out in sort of unusual ways. So just step back and let them have their space. And then to ask when you shut down too quickly. Like, I've been learning, because some people say things, I'm like, that is quite out there. Like, that doesn't feel right to me, or that doesn't feel right to me. But what I'm doing is just pausing and saying, that could possibly be true. Just pausing so my mind doesn't shut down to it too quickly. That might possibly be true. And then on the side that I would usually kind of resonate with, I'm saying, that might not be true. And that points you right to Spiritual Awakening 101, which is challenging the mind of what is true. Right? Is it true? Can you be absolutely sure it's true? And just step back, let people have a little more space. There is something to this. I'm not saying every theory person is correct. And so I think that if both camps can just find their way through what's triggering them, then we're going to be able, going forward in the next few years, which I think is still going to have big shakes going on, we can have more of a unified field to work through what's happening, which is perfect, even though it's very difficult right now.
Yeah. Rachael Jayne, I could talk to you for hours. I remember just being so impressed when I was finally able to spend some time with you. at our day together. And it's just an honor to have you in the trust with us. And I know this is just the beginning of some powerful conversations we're going to continue to have with the amazing women in there.
I do want to just give a shout out to the trust as well, because I joined, I think like only 6 months ago, and I've been to one of the events, and I'm so looking forward to seeing you very, very soon at the second trust event. And I can't speak highly of it. These women are not only badass in their business, but they are also very spiritually connected women, whatever background they come from. You know, everyone comes from a different background or different understanding of their spiritual source, but very tuned in, high frequency, lots of joy, lots of, I call potential FM. And to find both in the same room, I haven't been able to do. So I am just so grateful to you, Ali, for having that divine breadcrumb to start it and go, that's your legacy play. And I just can't speak highly enough of the caliber of women in that group.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Rachael Jayne, to wrap up, can you share 3 great pieces of advice with all the women listening?
Yes. I didn't have these prepared, so I'm just going to tune in and like, what is the first thing that comes to my mind? You might be driving, you might be listening to this over dinner. Just, okay. First is to drop into your physical body more. Just do that right now as we close out. Maybe that's the center of your heart. Maybe that's the center of your womb space, as I call in Art of Feminine Presence work, the center of your head. Just drop in there, because your physical form is the anchor for your spiritual self or your higher self. And if you're not anchored in your body, it's going to slow down that process. Second, can you let go of one coping strategy over the next week? A little one, maybe like those 2 glasses of wine for a week, or the scrolling in the evening, and just start to feel the corners that you don't feel. And the third is, don't be scared of getting closer to people who are really resonating with you right now. You might feel like you're pushing other people away, bringing other people close, but it's required. You know, Ali, you've been and the trust. It's like, oh, I can move toward these people because they think and behave in a similar way. And that builds my confidence right now, where it can be shaky because I'm seen and I'm like, what am I allowed to say? And am I going to be censored and judgment? And so just lean into those that you feel very resonant with. Reach out to them. Text them right now. Text them right now if they've been on your mind. So that's what I would say. So appreciate this conversation. I could go for hours too. And it comes from the energy, Ali, that you're holding.
Thank you so much, Rachael Jayne. And I will see you in just a few days.
I know. I'm so excited about that. And if anyone wants to follow where I'm at, we're doing events all over the place. I think the social media is one of the easiest places, just to sort of do a little hello. You can see my face, you know, how I roll. I'm on YouTube, Rachael Jayne Groover. My TEDx talk is a great one to start if you're really interested in the feminine work and the presence work. That's on YouTube. And Facebook, the Awakened School is our Facebook group, which is interactive. And I'm going to be doing an Unwavering Stillness Challenge this year, Spiritual Superpowers Challenge this year. So if you would like to be part of our work, those things would be great. And of course, you can go to rachaeljayne.com if you want to find the website. It's spelt weird, so look at what Ali's posted here.
We'll put in the show notes links to all your stuff. This is great.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Rachael Jayne.
Thank you, Ali.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of Glambition Radio. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you subscribe so you automatically get my new shows every week. Also, I'd love if you left us a review so more women like you can discover us. We're on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Pandora, and other major platforms. And I'd love to hear from you personally. Come join the conversation on social. Instagram is my happy place lately, and that's Ali Brown Official, but you can find links to my other platforms at alibrown.com. Glambition Radio is the elevated conversation for women leaders, and I'm honored you tuned in.